You are listening to the Tricorder Transmissions, episode 74. And now, here are Craig and Jeff.
Welcome back, everybody. This is episode 74 of the Tricorder Transmissions, our commentary for the third season's Requiem for Methuselah. We are your hosts, Jeff Hewlett
and Craig Cohen.
Mr. Cohen, how's it going over there?
All right. How you been, Jeff?
Pretty good. I'm kind of stunned, and I know we've keep saying this, but I'm kind of stunned that we've only got a few episodes left. I think it's 5 more episodes after this one, and that's the end of the third season.
I know, it's amazing.
God, this is like this 2-year journey that we've been on so far is just kind of flown past us.
Oh yeah, totally.
But looking forward to the future and what we have to bring. But for now, it's another commentary track, and the news is a little light this week. But one really awesome thing that just came out a couple days ago is that our buddy Paul Olson, his Project Enterprise campaign has started. Yeah. So these are the guys, in case anybody out there forgot or hasn't heard about this. These are the original guys that designed the refit Enterprise for the motion picture, and they're looking to actually rebuild that model exactly how it was, because the original model has been sold to a private collector, and it's they're not really allowed to use it for anything, and it's kind of hasn't been taken the best of care of. And so these guys are looking to get back together with the help of Star Trek fans out there, of course, with donations, to rebuild this model from scratch and to be able to lend it out for, kind of conventions and tours and things of that nature. So we talked to Paul earlier a while back, and it was an incredible discussion. And this was when their project was first started kicking off, for the first leg was a small a bit just to get started, and now this is the main campaign is finally launched. And I think it looks like they're looking for about 3 million total.
Yeah, it's
a lot of money.
Yeah. But they've been getting some really good coverage. I can't remember some of the outlets, but I remember earlier this week seeing a lot of articles about it and retweets and Facebook posts from the project. With some of the coverage that they've gotten. So they've gotten some really, mainstream media behind them.
Yeah, and wasn't that something that Paul said last time we talked to him, for that first small campaign they did was just to get the word out, so they get some media coverage going. And so it looks like they're using that first batch of funds exactly how they said they would, and getting the word out, because it has been all over the place. So that's really good for them. I'm hoping they succeed. Paul is a really great guy.
Yeah.
And I can't thank him enough for coming on the show. And I'm sure we'll have him back on at some point to talk about the current stage of the project and where they're hoping to go from here. So humongous project. And this is another news item, but this is about a week old or so. This happened not long after our last episode went live, but it looks like Shatner is talking about writing a book about Nimoy.
Oh, cool! I didn't hear about that.
Yeah, so everybody knows they were friends, pretty good friends for a while, and I think that's one of the reasons Shatner got flack about the funeral thing, and because they were supposed to be such good friends. But looks like he's working on a book. I can see that being an interesting read. Coming from somebody who actually was a close friend. Usually these books are written by, an author who didn't necessarily know the person, who just did a series of interviews with them and then wrote the book up, but this could be a really cool perspective.
Oh, totally.
No dates or anything for that. Just just a blurb that says he's working on something. So this could be a while out, knowing how busy Shatner is.
I know he's working on. It seems like he's got his hands in a lot of different things at all times, which is great.
Yeah, well, keep working, and it'll keep him around longer, I hope. And we'll probably see him again at the convention later this year.
Yeah,
out in Vegas. But so that's about it for our news coverage. So we can move on into our commentary track for Requiem for Methuselah, if you're ready.
Yep.
All right. So the Requiem for Methuselah aired on February 14th of 1969. Remaster aired June 21st, 2008.
All right, and the write-up from NBC's press release, issued January 24th, 1969, reads, "A raging plague aboard the Enterprise sends Captain Kirk, Mr. Spock, and Dr. McCoy to a planet inhabited by Methuselah, who wishes the ship to remain in suspension for 2,000 years on NBC television network's Star Trek."
All right, sounds awesome. So, cue up your players, DVDs, Blu-rays, what have you. We will be starting our scene-specific commentary in 3, 2, 1. All right. Something that right off the gate here,
Yeah.
Craig, something that I thought was maybe I hate to say bad things about Trek, but something that I think was a poor choice as far as the writing and the screenplay this episode was they relegate such a huge plot point to a tiny little couple second captain's log. The entire ship, everybody on the ship is going to die
Yeah.
within a couple of days if they don't get this particular treatment, this Rigelian fever. Now, in previous episodes where we had ship-wide illnesses, we actually saw a little bit of setup at least, where you see the person who contracted it, right, and brings it back to the ship and other people get it. In this one, I mean, this is a huge plot point of this episode.
Yeah.
And it's marginalized by just sticking it into a little captain's log, and I don't really think that it needed to be because there's so much in this episode that could have been, you know, skimmed over. They could have
Mhm.
chopped down this episode a lot and added more of the setup at the beginning for the illness to add some weight.
Yeah.
But at any rate,
But how do we get also in the opening log there? He states that it's affected 23 people on the ship. So that's got to spread pretty quick to infect over 400 people.
that's true. I did jump ahead till later where Scotty does say everyone's got it. So it is spreading around. So it was only 23 people. So maybe that's a really cool shot, by the way.
Yeah, it must have been like mounted to the camera or something.
Yeah. What did you notice that Nomad's head upside down is the bottom of that M4 robot?
Oh, totally. I had a complete Nomad flashback when I saw that robot.
I love it. He's like the little Easter egg that just keeps popping up.
Yeah, yeah,
This
and
episode.
it seems like they used the same, effect for that floating effect, which looks cool. I mean, all throughout this episode, when that robot comes floating in and out, it's a really cool effect. There's a couple of times where he looks a little jangly.
Yeah, maybe he's not as heavy as Nomad was. Maybe it was harder to keep him steady on the wire.
Yeah, that's one thing I'm surprised they didn't tweak in the remastered effects, is like some kind of stabilization.
They could. Yeah, it's something that's easily doable now, it seems.
Yeah,
There's apps
but
for it on smartphones.
yeah, well, maybe that was just considered a quirk of that robot, so that's the thing with the remastered effects is, at what point is it sort of a functional design aspect of the effect, or a personality trait, versus a technical limitation. Whereas I view it sort of as a technical limitation, but I guess you could see it as a quirky character movement.
Good point. Where do you draw the line on what you alter and what you leave the same? So I guess it was probably were some moments during their remastering where the guys that were working on it were scratching their heads wondering what we should do with this. Should we leave this alone? Should we change it? But
Yeah, well,
it seems like they made some good decisions here.
I was just gonna say, I mean, this episode benefits from some really, really great remastered effects.
Definitely does. We're going to see one coming really soon. Did you notice that McCoy has a pouch hanging on his belt?
I didn't catch that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. Usually the tricorder is enough, but he's got some kind of pouch. Maybe that's his medical kit or something. But it's pretty prominent. I noticed it hanging there. So Flint, this Mr. Flint here, is from Earth.
Yeah.
And he's registered as human, of course. So interesting side note there that we don't know how he got to this planet. We don't have a spaceship or anything. So what's the deal? It's a little bit of a mystery setup.
Yeah, and we
going on
have
there.
some poker getting played here between Kirk and Flint.
Yep. So this episode is interesting for me from a Kirk perspective. For in the beginning here, he seems to be completely focused
Yeah.
on the task at hand. So the beginning of this episode, I think, is great for Kirk, and later on, I think it totally changes and it becomes a really poor Kirk episode, in my opinion. But I don't want to jump ahead again, but we'll get there when we get there. But once again, we see Kirk potentially using his power, the power of the ship, to try to coerce Flint into giving up this ore or this drug that he needs.
Yeah, and it seems like a totally calculated power play with no real thought about really executing it.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
I love this performance here from Flint, James Daly. Just a tremendous bit of acting there, and he died in 1978 at the age of 59. You might have seen his work also on Ironside and The Fugitive. But again, some serious season 3 acting talent. That's one thing. If you want to say things about season 3, one thing you can't pick on is any kind of diminished guest star performances, because there's some great guest star performances this season.
Absolutely. And you got a little bit of a nonverbal clue there when there's a remastered effect, by the way. You see him walking over there. You see him walking across the bridge.
And like sort of that dual moon or dual planet that we saw in the establishing shot with the Enterprise flying as well.
Yeah, excellent. So you got the nonverbal clue when McCoy mentioned that the Rigelian fever is like the bubonic plague, and you could see the pained look on Flint's face as he starts to recall, almost as if he lived through the bubonic plague. So,
and this is another ticking clock, which it's a trope.
It certainly is.
And I like the aspect ratio on this this monitor.
Yeah, it's the first flat screen TV.
Yeah, it's not quite 4:3 and it's not quite 16:9.
But they got a little sound bar at the bottom there.
Yeah, they do.
So this is like this is another Star Trek prediction of technology. Now we have things that look exactly like that.
I mean, that really is pretty remarkable if you just pause that and look at it. I mean, it definitely was like, I guess if you showed it to a kid nowadays, they'd be like, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
It's absolutely true. So it's another question for you, Craig, is they just trust that this robot is going to go out and get this crucial ore that they need to refine. It's amazing to me that this is such a huge priority.
They're very trusting
this guy and his robot that they just met.
Yeah.
So, and I love the fact that Flint knows Vulcans, by the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, and it would be acceptable if this wasn't their first rodeo.
Yeah, really. If this was episode 1 and they hadn't been there yet, this is it just is a questionable decision to me. At least McCoy should have gone with the robot.
Yeah.
Or something, but I don't know. So here we are. We're being introduced to this mystery woman who he's currently hiding from our landing party. And awkward, almost kiss moment there. And that should have been your reveal right at that very moment that she's an android, because she's the blank look on the face. I mean, this is like Andrea 2.0.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you should have known right there that something was up. But interesting choices. But
yeah, they really hold back that reveal for quite a while. This is one of those Star Trek twist episodes, where they've got a plot twist, a shocking plot twist, if you will.
Yeah. Unfortunately, not a twist we haven't seen before.
Yeah. It's funny when you think about this episode, and you alluded to the fact that, you have that Kirk sort of moment, in the later half of the episode that you don't really get on board with. And you think of all the sets they could do, where recently they put out Captain Kirk's boldest missions.
Mm-hmm.
You could also put out like the love story collection. or the twist ending, or the plot twist collection.
Yeah, or the Captain Kirk WTF collection. Like, what the hell were you thinking?
Yeah, and here's where we get another all-knowing Spock sort of episode where Spock is completely jacked into art history, music history, and can say with definitive authority that things are authentic.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing that he's able to. Well, he does find that they are created with modern materials, which is interesting.
Yeah, but he's like analyzing handwriting.
Yeah. So you wonder if the tricorder can do all that by itself, or it has to communicate back to the Enterprise to get that information from the ship's computers and use the power up there to analyze that stuff. Because so that is interesting that they carry that kind of information in the data banks across the universe here in the ship. You know, they're able to transport all of that information about, you know, what Johannes Brahms' handwriting looked like.
Yeah, well, you never know when you're going to need to authenticate it. Maybe you're going to hit like an intergalactic pawn shop.
Yeah, and there's no certificate of authenticity.
Yeah. So you want to verify that the signature is legit.
Another weird disconnect here. Continuity disconnect with McCoy and Spock agreeing to drink some of this brandy is that we know that Spock has said that Vulcans are immune to the effects of alcohol, yet McCoy is posturing that we could have a drunk Vulcan on our hands, and what's going to happen when the brandy hits that green blood. So a little bit of a disconnect there between what we already know about Vulcans and alcohol versus what McCoy seems to have forgotten.
Yeah.
And Rytalin's purple, by the way. Okay, Rytalin's purple, in case you want to know. Rytalin, not Vitalin. So, of course, here we go again. M4 can process the stuff. Why didn't you just take it straight to the lab then? Why'd you bother dropping it on the table first?
Yeah.
Now, here's another question. And this is my first, choking back some groans here, is that, okay, the Rytalin, unrefined Rytalin has been dropped on the table. They have it. McCoy has confirmed that it is Rytalin. Why not immediately beam up to the damn ship?
Yeah.
And get started? Why are you hanging around at this point? You've got it. Mission accomplished. Let's go.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That kind of makes me scratch. At least send McCoy up to start, or send the Rytalin up.
Yeah.
Scotty, beam this purple stuff up. And let's get going. Let's get Dr. Mbenga and Nurse Chapel working on it. So here's another sub reveal that he's a liar, and we've got the lovely lady, and,
Raina.
And of course, McCoy hits on her first.
Yeah.
So this is knowing the history of the third season and how Shatner was famous for stealing other people's lines. I can't believe that he let McCoy have the line that he let him have. That sounds like a Kirk line to me. So surprised that Shatner would let him have it, but I guess maybe he threw him a bone. Get it? See what I did there? Threw Bones a bone. Sorry. Not as funny, I guess, if you have to explain it. But so now here's the age-old invite him to dinner. Oh, sorry I was a jerk before. And, I've seen tons and tons of movies where the bad guy tries to make amends and include you in his evil plot unknowingly by inviting you to stay to dinner.
Yeah.
And this is another strange decision on their part that, that they would opt to stay because, they can bring it in just under the wire, as Bones says. We can hang out for dinner. No big deal. We'll get up there and we'll say to the day just in time. I have just enough time to process this stuff for the robot. I didn't notice that before. Look, he kind of just stuck the bag on the edge of the robot. You notice that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there must be some like sticky stuff. The robot doesn't have a little hand or anything. Huh. And here we go. Kirk turns on the charm. Yeah. Cool lab.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Pretty cool lab. I love how all the bottles are full to the absolute top, like no one ever uses them.
Yeah. And it's got a very sort of, with the exception of the green, it's got a very Star Trek color scheme. You got your yellow, your red, and your blue.
Look at that. Good call. I did not know. Oh, some of them are spray bottles, and some of them are like big ketchup bottles.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that shot with the robot behind the frosted glass.
Yeah.
That's a really shaky overhead shot.
Yeah.
You think that's handheld? No, can't be handheld.
Well, I think it was the way they had to follow it. It might have had to be handheld because I don't think there was tech at the time that would allow a camera movement like that on any kind of rig.
Yeah, maybe he must have been up on top of something looking down.
Yeah, there's
maybe
a couple
he was
of
zoomed
those.
way in.
Yeah, that might be it too. There's a lot of those interesting overhead shots this episode, or at least early on in the episode.
Yep.
This is director Murray Golden. Died in 1991 at the age of 78, and he was a fixture of television in the 60s and 70s, I guess. Rawhide, Bonanza, Batman, The Flying Nun, Mission Impossible, and a show we've mentioned a lot of times on this show, Trapper John M.D.
Oh, man. That was a staple on our television when I was a kid. Old Trapper John. Once again, we're getting the alien talking trash about Earth and how barbaric Earth is. And Kirk, of course, has to defend Earth and defend Starfleet's mission by saying it's peaceful and the weapons are for defense only and all of this stuff. We've seen this before. And you notice that pool table has no pockets?
Oh, wow, yeah.
I wonder what that's about. I'm not a billiards expert, so if anybody out there knows, I know bumper pool tables don't have pockets, right? But that's not a bumper pool table.
No,
that's like a regular pool table because bumper pool tables are like octagonal, right? Or are they six-sided?
Yeah,
I think they're six-sided. Sorry, but see, no pockets. So what exactly are they doing there? He did call them billiards. He did say they were shooting pool, but I'm not sure what's going on. But interesting. Now, the dance scene. I love that Spock plays piano.
Yeah.
You know, we knew he was musically inclined before this because he, played this little Vulcan harp and stuff. But this is interesting that he can read music.
Yeah.
Earth music. You'd think that Vulcan music may be written differently, but he's reading this yet unknown Brahms waltz, right?
Uh-huh.
And now we've got the dance scene. Up, and the Ritalin is done. Here's one of the shaky robots, by the way.
Yeah.
And it looks like, I wonder how many takes they needed for DeForest to pull that customized looking box of Ritalin off the front of the robot. How did they get it to stick?
Yeah, I doubt they did that. I doubt that was a one take.
No. You think it was magnetic? That
very
little
possible.
thing was magnetic? Yeah. But Spock's concentrating awful hard on that on that sheet music. And here we go. The hand moves up to Kirk's neck. So all it takes for a woman to fall in love with Kirk is a waltz. This is where you start to lose me. This is where you start to lose me. I think he said about 5 sentences to her, and they're already like, feverishly falling in love, right?
Yeah.
So she has the equivalent of 17 college degrees, by the way, according to Flint.
Yeah.
So she's very learned, but immediately attracted to Kirk. And I love the look on McCoy's face, like, oh, not this again.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. He's giving Kirk the look too. He's like, what the heck are you doing, man? So the Ritalin is no good. It contains another
element, yeah.
Another element that will, of course, Spock has to clarify what that means. That it's useless. And, you would think that's something they would scan for before they went through all this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Do you
here's
think?
the time check. 2.5
Yeah,
hours.
yeah. Do you think that's potentially something that the robot did though?
Yeah,
To
I'm
to sort
thinking
of
maybe. Maybe. So we've got the bomb has been set yet again. 2.5 hours to go, and now they're contemplating what it will be like if all of the planet's ore, all the Ritalin ore on the planet is corrupted with this other element.
yeah,
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. And Spock seems to be very focused on these pieces of art and music that appear to be authentic but yet unknown.
right,
Where you would think he would be urging Kirk and McCoy to get back on the case here, and even he would be back in the lab trying to figure out how to fix the existing batch, right?
totally.
You would think, and instead he's going to sit back down and play more piano, and
Yeah.
Kirk's going to go to the lab. So is Kirk a chemist all of a sudden? Very weird. And that is obviously not a sterile lab environment. This is a big old wooden door and
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I guess the little panel there is where you're going to do anything that requires any kind of sterile environment.
Yeah,
You
there's a
go.
little room in the back there. Yeah, and we get another captain's log to catch us up on what's going on. And he even in the captain's log, I love that he's questioning himself about the time he's wasted
Yeah.
by allowing Flint to do all this stuff and mine the right talent and screwing it up. But yet he just continues to keep doing it.
Yeah.
He
Well,
continues to keep wasting his time.
and I guess that's really them trying to sell the Kirk and Love aspect. And I know last episode there was divided opinion between me and you, and actually the listeners over on the Facebook page about how much people bought, the love aspect from Scotty. But here, um, I think this is even more absurd.
Oh, absolutely. To me, this is ludicrous.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny because there's one point in the episode where, to me, it seemed like, oh, okay, this is a cool sort of ploy by Kirk. But then the end of the episode, totally puts out of your mind any idea, other than exactly what it is.
Yeah. No, yeah, this is obviously not some sort of game running by Kirk to get them out of a sticky situation, because the situation itself is not really even that sticky,
Yeah.
to be honest with you. I mean, there's no point in this episode where you think, well, they won't be allowed to beam up, because all they had to do was wait for him to walk out of the room, call Scotty, and beam back to the ship. It's not like they were being prevented in any way.
Yeah.
The robot can disable their phasers, if they're in proximity, but it looks to me like their communications have never been disrupted until of course when the Enterprise doesn't exist anymore or has been put into stasis later in the episode. But the danger factor in this episode is not really there.
Uh-huh.
And I think they could have, if they chose to take out this bogus love story here and focus more on the danger of what's going on the ship and make Flint a little more difficult to deal with, or put some other evil obstacle in the way of getting the drug or the right talent, it might have been much more interesting.
Oh yeah, totally,
Yeah.
totally. Instead, we get an episode coupled with last episode. You can sort of put this on the melancholy collection
Yeah.
set.
And this whole scene, this entire scene in this lab between Kirk and Reyna is just so fabulously awkward to me. And here's the quasi danger.
Yeah.
The robot has arrived, and
Coming in with the C block.
The robot C block. He's got like a little miniature nomad head on top of his head.
Yeah.
So the robot, I guess, is trained to detect sexual contact.
Yeah.
And arrive to stop it.
Yeah, the ultimate form of birth control, if you think about it.
Yeah, really. Jeez. Stop command. So she's yelling at the robot to attempt. So I guess it's not recognizing her commands anymore.
Yeah.
So, did it ever? I guess
I-
we assume that she could.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bye M4 robot.
Yep.
Yeah. Thanks, Spock. At least Spock gets to have a hero moment in this episode. He's been
Yeah.
so sidelined lately. Yeah. I don't know. I'm kind of glad that Spock got to do something. And that's interesting that he can sneak up on the robot. The robot has to explicitly disable your phaser. It's not like a field. It's not like a proximity thing where your phaser is within 10 feet or 20 feet and it's disabled. The robot has to actually disable your phaser specifically.
Yeah, and I like the fact that they wrote that line in, because we've talked about other episodes where they've sort of glossed over plot points that you would question. And this one, somebody at some point felt like they needed to illustrate why Spock's phaser worked.
That's a good point. That's good. I know, but it actually does help. It helps to make a little more sense out of it. But
Yeah.
and how often do we see their phasers get disabled temporarily?
Yeah,
Usually it's a blanket
all
thing.
or nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, and this one it's a different mechanic. So it makes you wonder, what other choices they could have made during this episode while their phasers actually did work and the robot wasn't around.
Right.
Yeah. But at any rate, we're
Yeah.
back again in another kind of dramatic interplay.
Yeah, and I guess we might as well just mention the writing on
Sure.
this episode real quick. This was written by a writer we've seen before, Jerome Bixby, who also wrote Mirror Mirror.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Shame that he couldn't have done another Mirror episode.
Right?
Yeah, that would have been pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're getting some more runaround about the robot and malfunctioned and more of these potentially partially autonomous robots. We've seen these before too, where the robots kind of act against the wishes of the makers. So not the perfect robots, I guess. But you would think, as powerful, quote unquote, as Flint is, that wouldn't be an issue.
Yeah.
And that, I love that Spock is finally calling Kirk out and I respectfully suggest you pay less attention to the young lady if you encounter her again. Kirk is getting incensed because he doesn't like the way that Flint orders her around, and Spock's like, "Listen, dude, come on."
Yeah, stop white knighting here.
Yes. Nice. Oh man. I don't know. This is really where I think Kirk goes off the rails.
Oh, totally. Because if you look at other episodes where Kirk has fallen in love, and I guess we can say, arguably, there's two definitive episodes where we saw that. City on the Edge of Forever with Edith Keeler,
Mm-hmm.
and then what? The Paradise Syndrome with Miramani.
Yep.
And those are both instances where Kirk had multiple days. In the case of the Paradise Syndrome, months
Mm-hmm.
to develop feelings for someone.
Exactly. And this is like 12 and a half minutes. And he's like, he breaks it down to Spock, trying to figure out the reasoning. Like, well, Flint wanted us to dance. He wanted us to play billiards. He must want us together.
Yeah.
I mean, really, Kirk? And now the Enterprise is running on a skeleton crew. Scotty just said there's not enough staff to run the ship efficiently. They're on a skeleton crew, and he's going to have the ship's resources dedicated to looking up information about Flint and Reyna?
Yeah.
Dude, you know what? I'm telling you, if someone was logging everything he was doing, if Spock was keeping track of all these decisions that Kirk makes during this episode, by the time you get near the end of this episode, they would have enough to enact some Starfleet regulation to take over command of the Enterprise when Kirk is unfit for duty. Seriously. And Spock keeps having to put him back on the right path.
Right.
There's that TV again.
Yeah.
But I mean, am I off base?
No, not at all.
I just don't get it. I don't get it at all. And of course, we got a little bit more stuff coming out from Spock about how old Flint is. He's like 6,000 plus years old. So once again, we've got the Oh, neat button bank there. I didn't notice that before. Did you see that? Those multicolored weird buttons in front of the TV?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't look like anything we've seen before. Maybe it's a new piece. And of course, more dramatic interplay between Raina and Flint, where she's starting to doubt Flint's integrity. And Flint doesn't. Oh, of course, I don't want Captain Kirk dead. And it's very weird. And no one's focused on the stinking right talent except for McCoy. Oh man. So I don't know. What now? Here's another question for you, Craig. Speaking of this crazy love story,
Yes.
wouldn't you think that they keep saying that they only have a small amount of time to get back to the ship and save the crew, right? But the processing takes a little while. But all told, if you go do the math, it's only going to take about a couple of hours. They could have the whole ship cured in a matter of, let's say, 4 hours, being extremely lenient. It could be a lot less than that.
Yeah.
What is Kirk that impatient? You can't just go up to the ship, cure everybody, and then come back down
Yeah.
and hang out with her? I mean, by the time she changes her clothes for dinner, you could have had the ship cured.
Right.
Very, very questionable decisions being made here, and it's very unfortunate. So, any word on Raina? Actress wise?
Yes. That is actress Louise Sorel, born in 1940. And most interesting aspect of her filmography is some lengthy soap opera work. From 1984 to 1991, she was on Santa Barbara.
Oh.
And from 1992 to 2012, she was on Days of Our Lives.
Wow.
So prior to that, she had done a lot of TV work, but I thought it was interesting that she had a nearly 30-year run on between two different soap operas.
Incredible.
Which always has to be a sort of a welcome gig for an actor. They work pretty hard on those soaps, though. They do a lot of pages per day.
Yeah, long, and yes, it's great to have a long-term, consistent job.
Oh yeah,
in acting. But she does as from a guest star perspective, I think her performance in this episode is actually really good too.
It is.
She really sells it.
Yeah.
A lot of these strange stares that she does into people's eyes, and that look as if she's really thinking a lot about things, and there's a lot racing through her mind as she's trying to understand what's going on. I think she did a decent job.
Yeah, I know. I agree, and that gets back to the caliber of guest stars this season, not suffering.
Completely agreed. Did you notice that whatever camera system Flint is using to watch them has the capability of moving?
Yeah, auto director.
Yeah, not just pivoting, but the camera can actually rotate around a subject.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I mean,
well, that's the funniest thing about if you in movies and television, even to this day, it seems like editorially they make a lot of decisions about using monitor footage, for lack of a better word, and it is always just taken from existing footage. It's not shot with the intent of saying, okay, this is a monitor feed. So you get this editing and these directorial choices, and it just always cracks me up.
Yeah, supposedly autonomous camera or a remote controlled camera making human choices.
Yeah, especially if you think back to like the Menagerie Part 1 and 2.
Oh God, yeah, a lot of that from the footage we're watching from Talos 4, right?
Yeah.
So here's the mystery room.
Yeah.
In the lab that was alluded to earlier.
Yeah. And Kirk called the door's bluff. He was going to blast it. And the door said, I was just bluffing you. I'll open.
Oh, that's great. And I love this this moment from Spock where he steps up and tries to be the hero.
Yeah.
Looking for the solo hero moment.
Yeah, it's almost like foreshadowing of the end of Wrath of Khan.
Oh, wow. I didn't pick up on that. Excellent.
Yeah.
Now, why didn't Spock just nerve pinch both of them and go in by himself if he thought it was that dangerous? But no. Everyone gets to go in to this mystery room that Raina's not allowed to go in, and we're about to find out why. And the right talent just happens to be sitting there on the table. And again, let's beam up. Let's
Yeah.
go. All right, you got it. You got what you came for. You can cure the ship, but no. Reyna number 16.
Yeah.
Dun, dun, dun.
Why would you need to put the name?
Yeah. Wouldn't you just need a number?
Yeah, I mean, if you're Flint, you're the only dude on the that's gonna be in this room, and you'd think to avoid any kind of confusion if Reyna ever did make her way into this room, that you wouldn't want a name on a place card.
That's a good call. That's a good call. I wonder what he does with all those
Yeah,
extra androids. He sneaks down there in the middle of the night.
yeah, and we had a interesting reverse shot there of covering her back up. That was not a natural cover back up. That was they just played the pull off footage in reverse.
You wonder if they originally didn't have a need to shoot that and they decided to do it later.
That's what it seems like.
For some reason or another.
Yeah, and we get another captain's log.
3 in one episode.
Yeah.
So I love it. And he says that we have the right talent ready to combat the disease, but they've discovered the secret.
Yeah, and we noticed that Reyna is not a natural blonde.
No. And she's bald. One of the Reynas is bald.
Yeah.
Little foreshadowing of the motion picture there.
Yes.
Bald chick.
Yeah, her only flaw is that she's not human.
So
she's the perfect woman, but her only flaw is she's not human.
Oops. So once again, I submit to you, at least send McCoy back to the ship at this point. Can't Kirk and Spock handle this from here on out?
You'd think.
Yeah, I mean, really. So now we get the big reveal at the end, nearing the end of the episode, that good old Flynn is actually many historical figures.
Yeah, which
Earth's
is really
past.
sort of doing a disservice to Da Vinci and Brahms, and really stealing their thunder.
Yeah, really. They're all one person. Oh man. And now it's all boiled down to thousands and thousands and thousands of years of existence and creating priceless and treasured art throughout history. It's come down to making the perfect android girlfriend.
Yeah.
Out of all the things he's ever done, this is what he's going to use his knowledge and experience for. Oh man. Wonder what that says about artists in general. Oh man. Give an artist a lab and he'll make a chick.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable. I don't know. I think Andrea was a much better android. I mean,
Oh yeah. I would agree. And I don't even think you factor in performance, or the choices the actress made there. I think it's just in terms of how the character was written and executed. More so, yeah. So, what Corby is what you're saying basically is Corby's a better artist than Da Vinci.
Oh, absolutely. Corby nailed it. And this guy's got and Andrea was one shot deal. There weren't 16 other Andreas. This guy's tried 16 prior times. This is Andrea Reyna 17.
Yeah.
Man. I don't want to see Reyna number 1 and 2. What those look like. Oh my goodness.
Legos.
That was like Reyna Erector set.
Flint's like, hey, you got to do it. I got to do what I got to do.
Yeah, he's like by himself over here. I guess it's a step up from those pillow wives that people have today. Huh? So Flint is immortal, by the way.
Yes.
Yet another immortal figure from Earth's past. But at least this time they don't kill him or attempt to kill him like they did with like they did with Apollo.
Yeah, and the one thing about this is we've run into the immortal characters on the series before. How did he get here? I know they run down the provenance of the planet at some point, saying who bought it and who sold it or something. But I mean, how does this guy end up here?
That
for so long.
Yeah, really. I mean, did he have a spaceship somehow? Did he get a spaceship and fly to this planet? And he's been here.
And why stay there?
And who built that gigantic palace?
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're talking about loneliness.
Yeah. Really.
Okay, why don't I just, kick it back to Earth? I spent a couple of centuries here, back to Earth, and we'll see what I can do.
Yeah, and obviously he's well traveled. He knew who Vulcans were.
Yeah.
How did all of that come? Why didn't he take his life to another world and learn their art forms
Yeah.
and create more art across the galaxy? Or maybe he did. Maybe he
Yeah.
did.
I think
6,000
we've
years, a
got
long time.
Yeah, I think we've got another Star Trek collection DVD set. The Nitpicker missions.
That's our next run through of these episodes.
And I love this. The Enterprise has been shrunk down, and we sort of get an idea of how the view screen works.
Yeah, I love it. You see Kirk's trying. This is kind of like an inner space moment.
Yeah.
Remember that movie?
Oh yeah, with Dennis Quaid and
Yeah, it's
Martin
a
Short.
great flick. So if you shrank the Enterprise down real far, you could suck it up your nose and they could fly around inside your body. How cool would that be?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Now that's some serious tech that Flynn has there.
Yeah, really. And, who built that?
Yeah.
Where'd that come from? I love that Enterprise model though.
Oh, me too.
That is a great little detailed model. I wonder what that model is. That can't be just the standard, off the shelf, snap together model or glue together model, right?
Yeah, well, I'd imagine that was probably a model that was used to make bigger models for the actual use on the show.
Oh, good call. Good call. Interesting.
That might be the smallest scale model they made for sign off and approval from whoever needed to sign off and approve on models before they actually built them. And here we go now. This is the moment of self-discovery that of an android.
Oh, by the way, here's some information I just got in a sidebar about this. So that is the 3-foot model of the Enterprise built to demonstrate the shape of the ship back in '64.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah,
wow, so they held on to that.
Yeah, it was in good shape.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we get
I wonder where that is today.
Yeah, who knows? Collector, I'm sure. But got the big reveal.
Yeah.
And this is the quickest surrender.
Yeah.
I think of a villain in maybe in Trek history. And they didn't even have to do anything.
Yeah.
They just say, "Hey, listen, man. If you don't let us go, your mechanical girlfriend's gonna hate you." Oops. So the whole thing's wrapping up, at least. So the people are going to be cured on the Enterprise. Thank God. If Kirk can pry himself away from Reyna for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And I think this sequence right here, if I were McCoy or Spock, this is where I would enact Starfleet regulations and take command of the ship from Kirk, because this is totally unnecessary at this state. I would have, if I were Spock right now, I would have grabbed the communicator and said, "Spock, Scotty, beam McCoy and I up to the ship. Leave Kirk here. We're leaving."
Yeah.
Let him stay with his girlfriend. Oh man. So I mean, you're a big Kirk fan. What is your perspective on this? from the Captain Kirk camp?
Not good. Like I said, at this point in the episode, you almost want to believe that this is some of that Captain Kirk, strategy on, how to handle situations. But like I said earlier, at the end of this episode, we're going to get the, definitive answer as to what he's feeling here, and it's almost a complete character betrayal, in my opinion.
I have to agree, and even Spock tries to stop him, and Kirk says we're fighting over a woman.
Yeah.
Earlier on in this episode, Kirk is attempting to argue humanity's case when Flint calls the barbarism of the human race into question. And here he is completely contradicting that argument that he was trying to make about human beings now being civilized. He's quickly reduced to caveman status.
Yeah.
Just because he thinks he's in love with a woman he met 30 minutes ago.
Yeah. And here we have Reyna's sort of Corby moment. Instead of saying "I am Reyna," she's saying "I choose."
Yeah, now she's becoming human, and and now Kirk is convincing himself that she's human.
Yeah.
Like, down to the last blood cell, she's human. So I guess, is he trying to justify to himself and to Spock and McCoy that it's okay that he is in love with an android
I think so.
because she's now human, apparently, because she can choose?
Yeah.
I wonder what the Starfleet regulations are on marrying a robot. Can you do that? Is that like the next big, uh, you know, civil rights movement of the Star Trek time, is marrying robots? Everything else is taken care of, right?
Yeah, but you also have so many different, these, one-offs, where you've got, Reyna is a completely unique class of android. There's no other android like her.
Maybe.
So it's almost like you'd have to have several different protected classes.
Good call.
And this gets back to your whole discussion about in Next Generation how again we've got an android that is more advanced than Data.
Yeah. I don't get it. I just don't get it. But this is a serious missed opportunity for Flint, I think.
Yeah.
I think. Well, think about it. How much he could be the richest man the universe has ever known. All he has to do is commercialize Reyna.
Yeah.
Build your own girlfriend kit. You know how many people would buy that?
Yeah, and a girlfriend that can love you.
Exactly. I mean, and Kirk has even said he built the perfect woman. So, I mean, here you go. Perfect woman kit.
Yeah, and imagine you had that, like, on the box, you have that quote from Captain Kirk.
Yeah, with a little Captain Kirk picture next to it. Everybody knows Kirk, man. Captain Kirk endorses Reyna. Big thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Missed opportunity. Well, now she's dead.
Yeah.
And now maybe Flint can get on that business plan. I think Kickstarter's still around in Star Trek time, isn't it?
So the contradictions of loving Kirk in a romantic way and loving Flint as a mentor and a father figure sort of created conflicting ideas in her head, and that's what caused her to die, really.
Yeah, she died of Padme syndrome.
I was just going to say that.
Padme syndrome. Oh, man. Oh, God.
So now we get this post episode scene, really, that is... I like the intent of this scene.
I do too.
It's a scene I would love to see in a more meaningful episode.
This is a scene that this scene would have been really awesome tacked on the end of City on the Edge of Forever.
Totally. Because it nails the loneliness that a captain might feel at times. It really nails that, and for Spock, it creates this moment where he's able to tap in and understand that loneliness.
Agreed. And I love the fact that Kirk at least comes to grips with his poor behavior. He realizes that he made bad decisions. And maybe it's a learning experience for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although, he's only talking about his decisions as pertains to Reyna and his falling in love and fighting over her with Flint. Not about the fact that he completely neglected his duties as the captain of the ship in order to do all those things.
Yeah.
Which I wish that he would have had a little, like a mea culpa moment at the end there. But, I guess maybe it's in the back of his mind.
Yeah.
And, well, at least this scene gives us some character building moments here. Even if it's only brief, you get some, McCoy feeling bad for Spock because Spock doesn't understand or will not ever feel how crappy Kirk feels right now.
Yeah.
And he'll never understand how bad Kirk feels right now. But, I mean, I think maybe Spock would understand it.
You'd think, I mean, there's logic there, right?
Sure, maybe. But, there's a human half here of Spock that I think could definitely empathize, with Kirk and what's been going on here with this whole situation. So I don't know. I don't think Spock is completely incapable of knowing what love is and how difficult it can be.
Oh yeah,
I mean, observationally, he's seen it so many times,
yeah.
enough to get an understanding. But now the final moment of this episode here. This is interesting because this reminds me of Superman and the forgetful kiss.
Yeah, yeah. Well, the funny thing about this is you initially think that this is an incredible sort of um, breach of personal space by Spock,
Oh, for sure.
um, but it really is more a moment of, dare I say, true friendship.
Mm-hmm. And empathy.
Yeah,
So Spock does have feelings. There you go. There's your reveal. So
yeah,
end of
um,
the episode.
yeah. All that said, even with that ending scene, um, totally an essential episode.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. I mean, I love the Spock mind eraser, but yeah, unfortunately, or actually, fortunately, I'm gonna have to go
Yeah.
non-essential.
Yeah, I would almost argue that this episode, from a Kirk standpoint, um, is almost damaging
Mm-hmm. Oh, I was gonna say the
for
same thing.
a casual viewer, if you will.
Exactly. If this was the first Star Trek episode you watched, what would you think of Captain Kirk?
Yeah,
Yeah. So,
yeah,
all right. Well, double non-essential.
yeah, yeah.
For
Pretty easy path we took there.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
so wow, that brings us to the end of another episode.
Absolutely. We are trucking right through. So episode 75 will come next Sunday, and that's going to be a fun one. I've been waiting for this one all series long to get to
Oh,
this. And
is this is it the Space Hippies?
yes, sir. Way to
Okay,
Eden is
yeah,
up next week, and I hopefully we can have some people weigh in on Way to Eden, because this is a very polarizing episode of Star Trek.
definitely.
So, I'm so looking forward to that. So thanks again always for tuning in, everybody. Any final thoughts from you, Craig, before we sign off?
No, it's been another fun and exciting Sunday discussion with you.
All right. So thanks for listening, everybody. And we will see you next week. Try to catch up with us on social media if you can, on Facebook at the Tricorder Transmissions, and Twitter at TTT_pod, and our website, tricordertransmissions.com.
There's an interesting little tidbit of sci-fi trivia hidden in this episode. The character of Raina Kapik is named for the man who coined the term robot. Karel Kapik was a Czechoslovakian writer whose play R.U.R. translated into English as Rosem's Universal Robots. Although it stands up very well on its own merit, Requiem for Methuselah owes its success to a few science fiction classics. The central plot is very similar to the science fiction classic film Forbidden Planet, complete with a futuristic robot, a lovely young lady, and a very possessive guardian. The writer Jerome Bixby also borrowed from Lost Horizon, The Island of Lost Souls, and The Twilight Zone. Well, they say that imitation is the best form of flattery. This episode owes a debt to Forbidden Planet, and Forbidden Planet owes a nod to Shakespeare's The Tempest.